When Messi and Argentina were knocked out by the eventual champions France in the round 16 in Russia 4 years ago, to us Argentina fans, it was more than just a World Cup defeat. The team was already on the verge of total crisis after their 3-0 defeat to Croatia. Jorge Sampaoli arrived with high expectations in 2017. His outstanding performance of Chile and Sevilla caused many of us to believe he is finally the correct answer since Alejandro Sabella. However, the almost exact opposite happened. When we all had to watch Messi gaze mindlessly into the stands, perhaps only a very minuscule of us could imagine Argentina in such a fantastic position 4 years later. We have plenty of reasons to be pessimistic. A disjointed football association that could barely pay Sampaoli's release clause. An old and disjointed squad desperate in need of young blood. It was to no surprise that none of our most famous managers, such as Diego Simeone and Mauricio Pochettino, showed any signs of interest to take over such a seemingly impossible job. Eventually, Lionel Scaloni, our beloved manager today, was given the caretaker responsibility. When the decision was announced, most of us still maintained a low profile. After all, Scaloni has never served as a first division manager. After his retirement in 2016, he began serving as Sampaoli's assistant from Sevilla all the way to the national team. In fact, he was only given a brief 6-month contract, an obvious signal that a new manager will be assigned sooner or later. During his first 6 months in charge, along with Messi's temporary absence, Lionel Scaloni gave 24 players their national team debuts in 6 friendlies, achieving 4 wins, 1 draw, and 1 defeat in the process. With barely enough money to settle Sampaoli's release clause, it was to no surprise the AFA couldn't finalize on a new manager, and Scaloni was given an additional 6-month contract, meaning he will guide Argentina in the 2019 Copa America. For the first time in several Copa America tournaments, Argentina were not considered as the favorites. Although Messi's return and the arrival of several new faces seemed to be an improvement, their 3-1 defeat to Venezuela and their lack of a clear offensive plan against stronger teams once again gave everyone the same impression. Argentina are still the same as they were for so many years. World-class forwards accompanied by a below-average midfield and defense. And their 2-0 defeat to Colombia in the openers seemed to confirm that this will be another disappointing tournament. In the following game against Paraguay, if it hadn't been for Franco Armani, we might not see Scaloni on his manager post today, and we definitely will be looking at a very different Argentina today. So let's take a brief moment here to thank the River Plate goalkeeper. Your penalty save against Gonzalez changed the course of Argentine football in an amazing fashion. It was Argentina's 2-0 victory over Qatar that gave everyone the first glimpse of Scaloni's improvement. Due to Di Maria's poor performance against Colombia, Scaloni adopted a brand new 4-3-1-2 formation that didn't include any wingers. In the 4-3-1-2 system, the width of the team's attack falls to the fullbacks. But unlike Brazil, Argentina did not have an abundance of offensive fullbacks. Whether it's Nicolas, Renzo Saravia, or the newly converted Juan Foyth, all produce better performances on the defensive side instead. However, if we take a dive closer into the midfield and the forwards, this is where the magic happens. But Celso and De Paul are both capable of playing out wide. Messi, as we all know, can play in almost any offensive position. While Sergio Aguero and Lautaro Martinez are both very mobile and can produce accurate passes. This is why they are chosen heavily over the former highly favored Mauro Icardi. They can help Messi play more comfortably. And when Messi is in a more comfortable position, you're not too far off from winning. Argentina's 2-0 victory over Venezuela further proves Scaloni's decision to be the right choice. If the previous game can only be considered as a victory over the weakest team in the group, then this result shows the 4-3-1-2 system is the correct solution against their South American opponents. Lautaro Martinez scores for the second game in a row within the first 10 minutes, effectively sealing his national team starting spot until today. Unfortunately, Argentina's improvement in form came too late as they faced Brazil in the semifinals. Under Tite's regime, Brazil had already begun their recovery almost 3 years ago. Unsurprisingly, Gabriel Jesus and Roberto Firmino killed off Argentina's hopes of reaching the final. However, The course of this game is much more worth analyzing than the result. The problem with Scaloni's tactic was his 4-3-1-2 system requires the midfielders and forwards to press extremely aggressively, then use the individual brilliance of his free forwards supported by his new midfield to kill off his opposition. But when your midfield and forwards are pushed up so aggressively towards a more superior opponent, especially Brazil, a lethal opposition that is highly capable of hitting you on the counter, you will not only need a very energetic midfield, but also a very reliable defense. The midfield problem can be solved by Celso and Di Maria in the second half, but in 2019, Argentina's defensive system was still under construction stage. The only center-back that could be considered as top class was Nicolas, who is still under heavy criticism for his time-wasting actions in the World Cup, whilst Pazzella, Foyth, and Tagliafico are not comparable to the likes of Alexandro, Thiago Silva, Marquinhos, and Dani Alves. Gabriel Jesus' goal allowed Brazil to switch into their comfortable defend and counter tactical plan, allowing Firmino to finally finish off the game in the second half. Against a much more mature opponent, the willpower of our players isn't enough to make up the difference. At least it wasn't in 2019, similarly to how they only lost by 1 goal to France 1 year ago. Despite failing to end their trophy drought, the players had already accomplished more than what they could in this tournament. In my opinion, this is perhaps one of the most comfortable defeats I have witnessed. If it hadn't been for some bad luck and controversial decisions from the referee, Scaloni's men could definitely capitalize on at least one of their opportunities to change the game. Compared to the hopelessness I felt against Croatia 1 year ago, I saw a much more tactically capable and spirited team that showed no fear against a more powerful opponent. Most importantly, they're steadily walking on the right track. The AFA also acknowledged Scaloni's efforts and appointed him officially until 2022, a decision welcomed by all of us. If the 2019 Copa America confirmed Argentina's forward and midfield setup, then our center-back partnership and their substitutions were confirmed by the historical 2021 Copa America and World Cup qualifiers. The new center-back who emerged as the victor was Cristian Romero, who obtained the Best Defender award of Serie A in 2021. In just his second international cap, he scored a brilliant header against Colombia. Unfortunately, Colombia later equalized in the final minutes, beginning with an unnecessary mistake from Nicolas. This is also the final major mistake Otamendi has made until today. Romero's aggressive tackling ability, covered by a cool-headed Otamendi, finally gave Argentina's defense the stability they had been looking for since the 2014 World Cup. In the right back, Noel Molina and Gonzalo Montiel formed a sword and shield combination on the right. In the left back, Nicolas Tagliafico and Marcos Acuna formed a similar combination. Another player that is worth shouting out for is Nicolas Gonzalez. Despite having to play in the second division at the time, Lionel Scaloni showed no hesitation to start him. He scored 2 crucial goals against Paraguay and Peru in 2 games in a row. Before the 2021 Copa America, Scaloni's preference towards Franco Armani had always been under question. But fate gave our current keeper Emiliano Martinez his chance when Armani was injured right before our World Cup qualifier against Chile. It was from this match that convinced Scaloni to choose Martinez as our first choice goalkeeper, and he will be rewarded dearly within just 40 days of his decision. Compared to 2019, Argentina in 2021 looked significantly better. Their tactical layout on paper was a 4-3-3 formation with a front three formed by Messi, Lautaro, and Nicolas Gonzalez. However, when Argentina are not in possession, Nicolas Gonzalez will track back to the left midfield formation to form a 4-4-2 defense. Lautaro will also participate actively in the team's pressing and defense. This is to compensate Messi's decreasing stamina. Under modern-day football, forwards are also required to participate actively in the team's pressing and defense. If one player is unable to do so, this proportion of responsibility must be shared by the remaining 10 players. But when you're doing it for a player like Messi, why would you not do so? Of course you would, because what Messi can offer far exceeds what he cannot. This logic does not apply just to Messi, but to anyone who can offer anything similar. Argentina's opening game ended in a frustrating draw, because the team created more than enough opportunities to kill the game. The only thing they lacked was putting the ball into the net. Guido Rodriguez's performance against Uruguay gave us a reliable rotational choice for our crucial number 5 position. Against Paraguay and Bolivia, Papu Gomez gave us a glimpse of our substitute's potential. It was to no surprise that Argentina was able to progress comfortably as group winners, with more and more players proving themselves at the same time. As we all know, Argentina achieved impressive victories against Ecuador and Colombia in the knockout stages. But what concerned me deeply was, there was always a 20 to 30 minute period when Argentina will find themselves out of control, allowing the opposition to create one opportunity after another. But thanks to the incredible tenacity of our players, Argentina amazingly never had to chase the game at all throughout the tournament. And Scaloni still had another weapon on his bench, Angel Di Maria. I'm sure all of us will still remember the disappointment of Di Maria being absent from the 2014 World Cup final, when he was still at the form of his life. Whilst in the 2015 and 2016 Copa Americas, Di Maria's performance wasn't outstanding at all due to injury, and with the Paris Saint-Germain man being 33 years old of age, starting him in every game won't be the right way. With Nicolas Gonzalez's presence, Di Maria can sit on the bench comfortably to wait for his moment, and he did prove to be the decisive factor in both knockout games. Against Ecuador, he first wins the ball off Hincapié to help Messi assist Lautaro to score Argentina's second goal of the game. Then he creates Hincapié's red card for Messi to score his second free kick of the tournament. Against Colombia, he provided Messi with a brilliant pass, but the post came to the Colombia's rescue. Some of my fellow viewers will remember how I did not consider Argentina as the favorites before the final. But let's once again shift the time back to 2019. Even with one of our weakest Copa America squads in history, we didn't allow Brazil to defeat us comfortably. So why couldn't this be the match that all of us had been waiting for? Lionel Scaloni surprised everyone by starting Di Maria in the final. Leandro Paredes was also preferred over Guido Rodriguez. Our best centre-back Christian Romero makes it in times with Gonzalo Montiel. A more attack-oriented Marcos Acuna is preferred over Nicolas Tagliafico. The remainder are the usual suspects: Messi, Lautaro, De Paul, Lo Celso, Otamendi, and Martinez. It was obvious Scaloni wanted to get the opening goal with a quick series of 1-2 punches with his best 11. And he was once again rewarded dearly when Di Maria lofted the ball over Edison thanks to Rodrigo De Paul. Although the game was still far from over, but this is a much more mature Argentina than they were 2 years ago. Without Gabriel Jesus and the over-reliance on Neymar, Brazil was unable to play in their preferred rhythm due to Argentina's persistent fouling, and Argentina was finally able to end their 28-year trophy drought. After the Copa America, most of us noticed a significant mentality boost within the squad. Until today, Argentina was only unable to score on 2 occasions. More importantly, they also proved themselves to be an effective force without Messi by claiming 6 points over Chile and Colombia. After a thrilling 0-0 draw with Brazil, Scaloni and his squad managed to secure their plane tickets to Qatar with 4 games to spare, a much more comfortable process than it was 4 years ago. Eventually, Argentina advanced to second place in South America without suffering a single defeat, and 1 year later, Argentina defeated Italy convincingly in the Finalissima, further showing themselves as a worthy opponent to anyone who has to face them. They are now heading into Qatar with a 36-game unbeaten record, just 1 game away from equaling Italy's unbeaten record of 37 games from 2018 to 2021. Over the past 3 years, Argentina has finally returned to a similar level they were 8 years ago. But unlike Sabello's team that relied primarily on counterattacks and the individual brilliance of the Big Four, Lionel Scaloni enjoyed a greater abundance of talented playmakers and box-to-box players in the midfield. Hence, his Argentina will hunt more aggressively for the opening goal with a quick series of 1-2 punches, especially against weaker oppositions. Against tougher opponents, Argentina will limit their pressing to certain points of the game. And with a super energetic midfield and stable defense, Argentina also possessed the ability to defend actively to perform quick counterattacks. This is one of the most distinctive differences between 2 of my favorite teams, Argentina and Football Club Barcelona. Argentina's midfield and defense can withstand far more pressure compared to the Catalans. So even if they cannot gain the lead quickly, their chances of winning won't diminish over time. To all of us who watched Argentina sufficiently for the past 3 years, we can pretty much project our starting 11 in Qatar, with only the possibility of injury to stop them. They are Lautaro Martinez, Lionel Messi, Angel Di Maria, Giovani Celso, Leandro Paredes, Rodrigo de Paul, Marcos Acuna, Nicolas Christian Romero, Noel Molina, and Emiliano Martinez. The biggest potential of changes lies in the forward, defensive midfield, and the two fullback positions. Nicolas Gonzalez's value lies within his extensive field coverage and tactical versatility. On paper, we usually field a 4-3-3 with 3 forwards, but when we are out of possession, Nicolas Gonzalez will retreat into the left midfield position to form a 4-4-2 defense. When we are in the attack, he will alter between a winger and an inside forward to wear down the opposition. Even to a player in his golden age, this is a gigantic burden. Hence, Scaloni tends to replace the Fiorentina man with Di Maria around the hour mark to maintain our advantage, or as a backup plan to regain the initiative. On paper, Di Maria is deployed as the left winger in the starting lineup, but in reality, he is usually seen in the right midfield position. The choice between Nicolas Gonzalez and Angel Di Maria is dependent on our tactical approach. Do we want to aim for the opener ASAP with the best lineup we have? Or do we prefer to wear down the opposition first before deploying our final trump card? However, on the 18th of November, the AFA announced Nicolas Gonzalez and Joaquin Correa will not be able to participate due to injury. This is another detrimental blow to our left flank. Can their replacements, whether it's Angel Correa or Thiago Almada, replicate a similar effect? I'm not putting too much hope into it. Angel Correa is more suited on the right. Thiago Almada has accumulated 7 goals and 7 assists in 31 appearances for Atlanta United so far, allowing him to be proclaimed as the MLS Newcomer of the Year. He was given around half an hour in our 3-0 victory over Honduras. Between him and Correa, I believe he will more likely serve as Gonzalez's replacement. To make matters worse, one of our most crucial midfield players also became a victim of injury. Giovani Celso was subbed out just 25 minutes of the game against Athletic Bilbao. It is now confirmed he will miss out on this tournament due to a muscle rupture. This is a major blow to Argentina's tactical plan. On our road to Qatar, Celso managed to accumulate 5 assists in the qualifying campaign. This has become my biggest concern after Lautaro's substitute. The key of Celso's importance is his versatility as a wide and center midfielder. His creativity and ball-advancing ability is key to Argentina's left flank. Although Messi, Di Maria, and De Paul also possess similar, if not better, capabilities, but all of them are more inclined to play on the right. Celso's absence will cause our attacks on the left flank to be decreased by at least 1 level, if not more. This will allow our oppositions to focus their defense to our right flank, which can be costly in the latter stages of the tournament. So, how do we attend to this? Unfortunately, there isn't a total solution to this. Having our best midfield combination being taken apart at this moment is a big disappointment, especially considering they have been developing their chemistry for over 3 years. We do possess players who have played in Celso's left center midfield position, such as Papu Gomez, Alexis McAllister, and Marcos Acuna. Sadly, none of them can replicate Celso's effect effectively. Starting out with Papu Gomez, he is a versatile player with great creativity, but he is also 34 years old. We cannot expect him to occupy both ends of the pitch for the full 90 minutes. Marcos Acuna did play as one of our free midfielders before and can function as a wide midfielder, but he lacks the creativity and awareness of a center midfielder. Alexis McAllister's performance at Brighton this season has been very considerable. He is a hard-working person and has already registered 4 goals so far. However, he is deployed as a center or defensive midfielder. Expecting him to drift out wide from time to link up our attacks isn't the job for him. One of my personal suggestions would be, use Papu Gomez in our group stage, considering our opponents are weaker. But as we progress, which I think we should, we will have to take the Sevilla number 24 off around the hour mark to maintain our midfield's field coverage. Or, we can start a pure center midfielder such as McAllister or Enzo Fernandez. Have them relieve a portion of De Paul's responsibilities so he can divert more attention into the attack. Alternatively, we can tweak our formation into a 4-2-3-1 by starting Marcos Acuna on the left. The right flank can be left to De Paul or Di Maria, whilst our pivots can be formed by Enzo Fernandez and Leandro Paredes. Overall, we are forced to replace control and creativity with more physical strength and timely movements into the box. We all know Argentina is a great factory of producing number 10 players such as Diego Maradona and Lionel Messi. However, let's also not forget the number 5 position is also another highly obsessed position to the Argentinians. The most distinct difference between Leandro Paredes and Guido Rodriguez is the former is significantly more capable when it comes to creativity and build-up play. This is due to the fact he played as a traditional number 10 when he was still at Boca Juniors. He was only shifted to the number 5 position by Rudy Garcia when he joined Roma Football Club. However, when it comes to defending, the current Juve number 32 relies too much on ground tackling. In addition, his positional awareness is not comparable to the likes of Sergio Busquets, nor does he possess an extensive field coverage like N'Golo Kante. So if Paredes is having a bad day, it will increase the burden of our center backs significantly. Based on what I've noticed, Paredes is preferred over Guido Rodriguez. Against weaker oppositions, Paredes' shortcomings can go unnoticed. But as we progress throughout the tournament, his weakness will become increasingly obvious. This is one of Argentina's most significant problems. None of our 3 usual midfield suspects, Celso, Paredes, and DePaul, are actual defensive midfielders. This can be solved to a certain extent by Cristian Romero's aggressive tackling, the willpower of our players, and his tactical substitute, Guido Rodriguez. Guido has already secured himself as our midfield's number 1 substitute with his superb defensive capability. He is the ideal choice when we require more muscle in the midfield. In the current season, the Real Betis man also showed improvement in his long-range finishing, an essential weapon when it comes to breaking buses. In addition, his height and physical stature can be another weapon when it comes to set pieces. His main disadvantage when compared to Paredes is his build-up play. If he starts, the build-up burden of our other 2 center midfielders will be increased. But this won't stop Guido from being an important piece of the puzzle, as he possesses the characteristics that Paredes lacks. Our fullback positions, as mentioned before, are a sword and shield combination. When we face players like Vinicius Jr. and Luis Diaz, Nicolas Tagliafico and Gonzalo Montiel will more likely be given the nod. A typical example will be Montiel's astounding performance in the 2021 Copa America final. When one of our defensive fullbacks is deployed, Scaloni will prefer a more attack-oriented fullback on the other end. That's when Noel Molina and Marcus Acuna will be given the heads up. Judging from the season so far, our right back will be a concern. Noel Molina's performance since joining Atletico Madrid has been well below expectations, whilst Montiel only regained his position after Sampaoli's return at Sevilla. In addition, Juan Foyth, who performed admirably in the Champions League last season, suffered a major injury on his left knee and only has just returned in time. Although most of us might recall Foyth's dreadful performance against Colombia, but in the past season, he has proved himself to be capable both as a center back and a right back. This can greatly reduce the impact of any unfortunate injuries or suspensions that might happen during the tournament. If we want to talk about some of the great discoveries in our qualifying campaign, then the partnership of Cristian Romero and Nicolas Otamendi will be one of the biggest contenders. As of today, Argentina has yet to concede a goal when Romero, Otamendi, and Emiliano Martinez are on the field. Cristian Romero's accurate and aggressive tackling skills, combined with a mature and cool-headed Otamendi, has finally given us the defense we've been so desperately looking for since the 2014 World Cup. Whilst Emiliano Martinez is not only highly capable at producing splendid saves, but also a reliable penalty saver. Of course, in any tournament, we cannot just rely on 12 to 13 players to win the trophy. From the 2021 Copa America to our recent friendlies, Scaloni also placed considerable efforts to discover our best substitutions. The first player will be Papu Gomez, who is currently playing at Sevilla Football Club. Just like our beloved captain Lionel Messi, he is an extremely versatile player. Under Scaloni's regime, he has been deployed as a left midfielder, a left winger, or even as one of our free center midfielders. Against weaker oppositions, he can act as a weaker version of Messi, a similar role he played when he was still with Atalanta. If you want to talk about my biggest concern towards our squad, it will be an effective substitute for Lautaro Martinez. The Inter Milan forward has improved immensely in his passing and physical engagement with opposition centre-backs, and combined with his immense tenacity and pressing, He is now Argentina's undisputed first-choice striker and was Scaloni's top goal scorer for more than 2 years. Julian Alvarez is a promising and hard-working young star. However, he doesn't possess the physicality to combat opposition centre-backs, nor does he possess the lightning pace to shake off defenders. His strength lies in his outstanding positional awareness and finishing. Personally, I think another actual number 9 is essential. The two possible candidates were Giovani Simeone and Lucas Alario. Simeone's performance this season has been superb, despite being used more frequently as a sub by Spalletti, but he has almost never played with the usual crew. Alario, on the other hand, did make a few more appearances, but his performance at Frankfurt hasn't been convincing either. Unfortunately, Lionel Scaloni has opted to leave both of them from our final squad. Their height and physical strength can serve as a plan B when we are in desperate need of a goal. The one player I wish that can be dropped but wasn't is Joaquin Correa. Despite having a great height, he doesn't seem to make great use of it. He does possess a quick pace and has an acute positional awareness, but his finishing is way too disappointing. In addition, he doesn't seem to show too much interest when it comes to defense participation. Personally, I don't think he's the guy we should bring to Qatar. At the very least, not as Lautaro's substitute. It is now confirmed he is also dropped due to persistent pain in his left knee. His absence won't be as detrimental as Celso or Nicolas Gonzalez. But again, no actual number 9 to call upon to rotate with Lautaro. The final and most important forward sub that will attract the most attention will be Paulo Dybala. He was regarded as Messi's future successor in the national team due to their rather similar playstyle. Thankfully, he was able to recover at the final minute to be included. Under Sampaoli's regime, Dybala's coexistence with Messi was frequently brought into question. But since Scaloni's arrival, Messi has already assisted Dybala on 2 occasions. His outstanding finishing will be another lethal weapon in extreme circumstances. If Lautaro's substitute is my primary concern, then Rodrigo de Paul's substitute was my second concern for a very long time. He has also secured himself as one of our undisputed starters since the 2019 Copa America. Although serving as a box-to-box midfielder with Argentina, his creativity and finishing are also very considerable. In fact, he was Udinese's top goalscorer and playmaker before arriving at Atletico Madrid. Although he didn't shine as much as we expected so, his performance with the national team has always been superb. His value is just too great for anyone to replace him effectively. His excellent relationship with Messi actually reminds me of the partnership between Diego Maradona and Jorge Burruchaga. Thankfully, the emergence of Enzo Fernandez can prove to be a partial solution. The former River Plate graduate has shown his incredible proficiency on both ends of the field. Even against the likes of Juventus, he showed no fear and participated actively in Benfica's 4-3 victory over the Italian Giants. Despite not being featured in any of our qualifying campaign, he has already assured his ticket to Qatar. The 2 centre-backs who will serve as Romero and Otamendi's substitute will be Lisandro Martinez and German Pazzella. Despite receiving several doubts when he first arrived in Manchester, Martinez has already established himself as an irreplaceable member in Erik ten Hag's team. Although some of us may hold concern over his height, this can be replaced to a certain extent by his positional awareness and his incredible tenacity. In cases of emergency, he can also play as a left back or defensive midfielder. He certainly won't be a bench warmer as we progress. German Pazzella will serve as Cristian Romero's substitute and has established himself as a regular starter in Real Betis, who are currently ranked 4th in La Liga. A slight concern is the number of bookings he's accumulated so far, a total of 4 yellows and 2 reds, compared with his 9 yellows and 1 red from the previous season. Ability-wise, he isn't comparable with Romero. A typical example will be the 2021 Copa America semi-final, when he was unable to stop Luis Diaz from scoring the equalizer. But since returning to La Liga, his performance has improved significantly compared with his final season at Fiorentina. So as long as he doesn't make any unnecessary mistakes, he can serve as an acceptable substitute. Unfortunately for Juan Musso, his facial injury meant he will 100% miss out on the World Cup. Jerome Rulli, who started in Argentina's final qualifying game against Ecuador, will be his replacement. Being part of the Villarreal team that made it to the last 4 of the Champions League last season, he will serve as our second choice goalkeeper, whilst Franco Armani is confirmed to be a 3rd goalkeeper. It is Argentina's long-lasting tradition to include at least one player playing in their home, especially those from River Plate and Boca Juniors. This year, I'm sure all of us will be a lot more optimistic compared to how we were 4 years ago. We have a very outstanding and pragmatic manager with a clear tactical layout. And we have the best player in the world, Mr. Lionel Messi. Other than our talisman, we can also rely on the experience of Di Maria and Otamendi. In the midfield, we have players in their prime like Rodrigo de Paul. Young talent-wise, we have the likes of Christian Romero and Enzo Fernandez. Experience, prime, and young talent. 3 major characteristics of a cup-winning team. On paper, Argentina may not look as fancy as France or Brazil, but they certainly won't be an opponent anyone will want to face. To Messi, Di Maria, and Otamendi, this will certainly be their final World Cup. Although this is something we do not want to face, it has also instilled great spirit into our team. Everyone is willing to give beyond their very best to help Messi win the biggest prize of football. At certain moments, the willpower of the players can be the difference between victory and defeat. Can Argentina finally bring the World Cup trophy back to Buenos Aires after 36 years of waiting? Can Messi finally win the biggest prize of football at 35 years old of age? Can Lionel Scaloni write one of the most legendary scripts in football? We'll find out. Good luck to all of our players. Best wishes to you, Leo. And finally, Vamos, Argentina!
I need you to listen,